Once you have your collages done, you can see that I went kind of crazy. I love making collages. And that was just from the scraps that I showed you earlier. I've made all of these and I still have some scraps left. So my first one was this one. My second one was, geez, which one was it? Maybe this one? I don't remember. Yeah, I think this one I showed you. And then I just started to go crazy. So for this project, you're only going to need one of them. The good thing about making more than one is that you now have a choice to see which one you like better. So I'm randomly just going to look and think, are there any in here that I would pull out? And I think, I'll talk about why, but I think I'll pull that one out. Let me see. Geez. All right, which one do I really like? I really like this one and the way that came out. And the way this came out, these three are kind of my tops. This one gets a little lost. I like this composition, and I may be able to pull him out a little bit more, but maybe not for this one. Still kind of like that one a lot. This one's an interesting composition. You notice that it has basically two squares and two squares on each side. So it's kind of a crisscross composition. And I like the way this dark bar moves with these fingers. I like the light values in that one against the dark hand. That's pretty sweet. This one has a lot of nice dark values. I don't know if you recognize this. This was that cake photo that I got, and these were the three drips of chocolate up on the top of it. And I like these three people kind of crowding in the corner with this one woman here. But maybe I'll take that out and look at these three. These three happened really fast, and they were fun to do. This one may be a little bit lighter. This one, pretty good balance. This one's on the darker side with two areas of light across there. Geez, I don't know which one. If you're at that point where you're lucky enough to have three you really, really love, I would say turn them over, mix them up so that you don't know which is which, and then lay them back out, and then pick one. So that's the one I'm going to do. Take those two out. Now we're going to grid out the collage. So the collage is, I made this handmade ruler. I only have a tape measure and it's kind of annoying. So there's 4 inches. This collage is 4 by 3 inches. So what I want to do, I've also marked off not only the inch, but the 1/2 inch here. That's going to be important. I want to mark this collage out into 1/2 inch increments, both horizontally and vertically. So I'm taking a graphite pencil. You should have a pretty good point on that pencil. And you cannot erase with this, because if you erase, I'll show you what happens with the photos. If you make a mistake and you try to erase this, do you see how the photo erases? So you don't want to be erasing the photograph. So make sure you have your marks in the right place. So it's 4 inches. Every 1/2 inch, I'm going to make a mark. I'm using graphite because even on this flat black, this graphite pops out very clearly. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see the marks across here. So it becomes very clear. So I've marked off this half. I'm now going to come across and mark off the other side. So again, every ½ inch, I'm making a mark. I don't know my own strength sometimes. All right, so now both sides are marked. I think you can see the marks on there. And I'm going to connect them. I'm using this card as a straight edge. And again, you can't erase, so make sure you were doing ½ inches. So there's my first one. Going to do that all the way down. And I can't see this one very well. Okay, I see it. Right here to here. So I'm going to do that all the way across horizontally. Now I'm going to mark them off vertically. So again, every ½ inch, ½ inch, ½ inch, ½ inch, ½ inch, and that's a ½ inch. And at the bottom, I want to do the same thing. ½ inch, ½ inch, ½ inch. You don't want the line to be too wide because it will start to hide information. You got to be able to see it. And then once you have all those lines, marks drawn in, I didn't glue down all my parts here. I should have glued that better. There's the second one. There's the third one. All right, so you can start to see the marks that I have on my collage. I hope you can see it. I can see it. And you're going to continue doing that for the entire collage so that this entire 4x3 inch surface is gridded out into ½ inch squares. All right, to get set up, we're going to be working on a piece of paper that, for me, I have a small room here. I'm going to use a ½ sheet of 18 by 24. So my sheet is going to be 18 by 12 inches. So the measurements I'm going to give you are for a piece of paper, 18 height or width, and 18 by 12. So for a vertical format, if your collage is vertical, then these are the measurements you want. You can jot this down if you want. You want to take the height of the paper. Let's do the height. They're in pink. So the height of the paper is 18. The height of the drawing is 6, which leaves 6 inches. You want to make the top smaller and the bottom bigger. So 2.5 at the top, 3.5 at the bottom. That equals 6 inches, so we're good. By the sides, you take both horizontals. The paper is 12 inches. The drawing is 9 inches. So you subtract that. You got 3 divided by 2 means you have 1.5 inches on each side. 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, 2.5 inches, 3.5 inches. That's your vertical format. Horizontal format. You've got a piece of paper that's 18 inches across, 12 inches high. Take the verticals. The paper is 12, the drawing is 9, that leaves 3. We want to do more at the top, more at the bottom, less at the top. So we're going to do 1 inch at the top, and we're going to do 2 inches at the bottom rather than 1.5 and 1.5. Now you take the horizontals, 18 inches across, 12 inches across. That leaves 6 inches. You divide by 2, you get 3 inches. So the final measurements for an 18 by 12 inch piece of paper, top is 1 inch, bottom is 2 inches, sides are 3 inches. And I want to I'll let you know again that you should then measure inside here and make sure that you have an image block in here that's going to be 9 by 12 inches. If it's not, go back and measure. And the last one, the gridding. On your collage, which is 4 by 3 inches, you've blocked off 1/2 inch squares. That's 6 across and 8 on the side. When you go to your 9 by 12, that should be 9 here, 9 by 12 image, you should have blocks that are 3 times the size. So that's 1/2 inch times 3 is 1.5. So these should all be 1.5 inch blocks across here. Now we're going to go to paper. I don't have room in my house to work 18 by 24, so I am working on a 1/2 sheet of paper. So all of the measurements that I'm going to show you are based on 1/2 sheets of 18 by 24. So that means we're working 12 by 18. That's the size of my sheet. The first thing we want to do, we're starting off with a collage that's 4 by 3 inches. And we want to make that 3 times the original size, but blowing it up 3 times. So 4 inches times 3 is 12, and 3 inches times 3 is 9. So the image area that we're going to be working in is 9 by 12 inches. So on this side, I've already got my drawing started, and I'm going to show you, forget this part. I've blocked in a 9 by 12 inch area on my paper. So I'm going to show you how I did that. This is 9 inches across. This paper is 12 inches across. So you subtract the 9 inches from the 12 inches and you get 3 inches. I've got 3 inches that I need to split between each side. So this is going to be 1.5. This will be 1.5. The top. This is 12 inches. This is 18 inches. So 18 minus 12 is 6. We want to divide that between top and bottom. The issue is that we don't want to leave the same at the top and the bottom. If you do that, because of gravity, it makes our eyes, our brains think that the bottom is too small. So to compensate for our brains, what we do is we make the top a little bit smaller and we make the bottom a little bit bigger. So that would have been 3 by 3. I'm going to take a 1/2 inch off here, and that's going to make that 2.5. And I'm going to add the 1/2 inch down here. So that's going to be 3.5. So this is 2.5 along here. And this is 3.5 along here. So then you do your lines for the border and then make sure to check to see that your block is actually 12 inches by 9 inches. I actually had to erase mine and do mine over because somewhere I screwed up. So that can happen. So make sure that you realize which part is the top and which is the bottom too. Because I've had people do this and then they draw the drawing upside down. So they've got the most up at the top and the least down at the bottom. So make sure you have your shorter top at the top and your bigger bottom at the bottom. The next thing we're doing, we took the collage and we broke that down into 1/2 inch squares. We're now doing the 1/2 inch squares 3 times the size. So a 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch, and a 1/2 inch is 1.5 inches. So the blocks are now 1.5 inch blocks. So you go along the edge, 1.5, 1.5, all the way around, and all the way around, connect them, and you're ready to start your drawing. I want to point out that I am using a 2B pencil, or in this case, I guess it was an HB, and I am not pressing down. I'm hoping that you can actually see this drawing. It should be light, because if you do it too dark, then you're not going to be able to erase it out and have it disappear in the light areas. And the other thing is, if you use too hard a pencil, you should be using a 2B. I have one here. Then you can easily erase it. Sometimes with a hard pencil, you push down too hard, and then it basically makes a cut into the paper, which is hard to get rid of also. So very light hand, 2B pencil. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to start plotting out the squares. I had a student one time devise this for herself. She thought it made things easier. She took a piece of paper and cut out a 1/2 inch square and marked the halfway point on all sides of the square. Then she made a 1.5 inch square and again marked out the middle on all 4 sides. What that allowed her to do is to be able to, let's say I want to do this area. I'm going to show you, I'm going to draw the hands area in a minute. I already drew this area. So let's say I want to go over 1, 2, 3 blocks, and I'm just drawing that block. And then I go over 1, 2, 3 blocks, and I'm just drawing that area. So I don't know if you can actually, how much of this you can actually see. Oh, it comes up a little bit more. There we go. So you can see there's a hairline in here that will become dark. I'm not doing any value yet. And then there's a wrinkle across here. I am simply trying to lay out the shapes. No value at this point, just the shapes. And the shapes meaning, like when I get to the beard, in through here, around the lips, you can see this. I am not drawing in each hair. I'm just drawing in the basic shape of the beard. So what you want to do is, I'm going to do the hands now. Let's take the second block from the bottom. So this block right in through here. And second block from the bottom is right in through here. This is particularly helpful when you're working with stuff like face, hands, and you go, oh, I don't know how to draw that. You can see this is a little short here. I'm just going to fill in dark down at the bottom. See how the second finger kind of aligns, but not quite with the halfway point, just behind the halfway point. It's about right in here. The other side of the finger is pretty close to the edge here. The little finger comes out of the bottom part at about halfway here, touches in through here, comes up, and it's going to meet this part. And I want to get all the little changes. I can actually see a little bit of the nail there. I see a little bit of this second finger, and it comes down and around. It's about halfway here. So there's the second finger, and you see where it meets. It's like connecting the dots on a grid, basically. I'm also looking at negative spaces in through here. Negative spaces can be really nice for you. So there are the fingers from this block in through here. Let's go to the one up above. So that's 2 up, 1 over. Line that baby up. You don't have to do it with a block finder if you don't want to. I find it can be helpful, but that is completely up to you. So this finger starts from here. Sometimes they need to change things a little bit. This is right smack halfway. So let me see, what's halfway here? Is this little finger. Wow, that's a big jump there. This is what I'm talking about by, you know, oh, I see, that's not the little finger, that's the second finger. So that's working out. So this comes up, the knuckle is about at halfway across here. And if it helps you, you can half and half the block again, and you can half and half this one. So you can really see in the tiny areas, this is what I do, so I can get this in the right shape. I can see that negative space there. The knuckle's about right here, then it turns off. This one to about right here, this one about right here, and it comes down. Now these are not quite lining up, but I'm going to start with that, and then I'll play around with it to make it a little bit more human, because these look like rubber in through here. So cross this over. I'll have that come down a little bit straighter and through here, and I don't know where my eraser went. Here it is. I'm going to erase out this extra line that I now have there. I'm going to just, now I'll show you just eyeballing it. Most of this finger is in this first block, and I don't know how well you can see it. Man, it is so light even for me. But it starts at halfway on this side of the block and comes up, and is not quite halfway on this side. And then I'll continuing up from there. And it hits the corner about right in through here. So there's a bit of an angle across there. I've got the thumb. The thumb starts right at halfway and comes up very, very close to this edge. I'm seeing a little bit of a nail here. I think this is his arm. And this is his arm down here. Now we'll go over and do the little finger. Again, it's, if you want to, see I'm moving this over now that I see this. This comes out a little bit more. Yes, yes. This comes out of here. Wow, this one's hard for me to get in. I guess I'm going to be looking through the little viewfinder again. So let me double check this one. Some blocks will kind of draw themselves. Other blocks will be a little bit more difficult because they've got pretty complex information. So it will vary. Like this one's taken me a little bit of time, but there might be, you know, the one next to it where it almost draws itself. So this goes to halfway. All right, now the next one. I have a little bit of dark here. This comes across this side. I'm seeing this starts at halfway, this side of the finger. I'm not even really thinking about fingers. I'm just kind of following points. Like this finger goes all the way to the bottom. The second finger is about halfway across here. The third finger shares the space. There's a little bit of a triangle where this one hits this one, and that's the other finger. I'll do the last block here with the fingers. So this should come out of, I see. This should come out of here. This should come out of here. The fingers are about halfway. There's a nail. There's a nail. They kind of go in across here. There's the tip of this finger. This comes out about halfway. Yeah, now it's starting to make sense. Here, here, and across here. You see how the fingers are starting to come together? So you continue that, like look at the arm here. I'm just going to get the shape of the arm in. I'm not going to worry too much about all of these wrinkles. I would definitely get the sleeve. You can see where I've gotten the position of the necklace. These beads are a little bit bigger, but they go from smaller to larger, so I need to work on these a little bit more. There's really no features in the eyes, very little in the lips. Once you have it all blocked out, what you want to do is erase the grid out and leave the shape showing. So I don't need any of this grid anymore. There's no information that I need to. I'm using my white eraser. So basically all I'm going to have left after I finish gridding is nothing but the shapes. The grid will have disappeared. I also want to remind you, keep your hands clean. You want to keep the edges clean around here. I think that's straight across here. There's nothing in through here. So I hope that makes sense. Grid all the shapes in, 2B pencil, and then we'll be ready to add graphite.